Could your quest to be the perfect mother, the good mother, actually be draining your energy? You might be caught in the trap of trying to live up to the rules of what it means to be a good mother and pushing yourself further than you have to give because of it. I see this a lot in tired, burnt out, depleted mums, the mums that I work with and support in clinic. A lot of the time, at least in part, this striving to be this good, perfect mother is actually adding to the sense of depletion and exhaustion, both mentally and physically. In fact, this was one of the major barriers for me personally when I was a very new mum in the early months and years of my own motherhood journey, and I was suffering from postnatal depletion. I had to do a lot of work around this idea of the perfect mother myth, which we'll get into in a second, to be able to let go of beliefs and behaviors and actions that I was trying to keep up with that were unsustainable in relation to how burnt out and fatigued I was. Hi, I'm Georgie. I'm a naturopath for tired mums, and if you're new here, welcome to the video. If you're back for another one, welcome back. I work with tired mums just like you to overcome exhaustion, beat postnatal depletion, and go on to enjoy the wild ride that is motherhood for years to come. If you are in fact a tired mum, then you might benefit from my free guide for tired mums, which steps you through 7 simple, everyday, practical ways that you can boost your energy in motherhood, even if your baby isn't sleeping through the night. I'll leave the link for it just below this video, or if you are listening to the audio on the blog page, then you'll find the link for it somewhere below. Today we are talking about the perfect mother myth and how it can drain our energy. The perfect mother myth, some of you might have heard of it before. It might be a new concept. It is the idea, or it refers to the cultural and social beliefs that are held around what it means to be a good or perfect mother. It dictates the way that mothers should act in order to be deemed good mothers, and it often involves rules or expectations that are pretty unrealistic and unattainable, and that's really why we consider it to be a myth, because no human can live up to these expectations, and we'll talk about more of them in just a moment. A lot of the time they contradict one another. They're just asking more of any person than one human can do. And so this concept of the perfect mother myth often leaves us as mothers feeling like we've failed or we're not good enough. It makes us push ourselves more and harder and work more and give more than we have to give, and hence why it ends up draining our energy. In books and in the research, it's sometimes referred to as intensive mothering ideology, idealized mothering, or idealized motherhood, or the supermum myth. I've learned pretty much everything I know about this from Dr. Sophie Brock. I've just completed her Motherhood Studies Practitioner certification, and this was a huge part of what we learned in there. And it's been really useful for me to learn as a practitioner working with tired mums, because I'm able to see the layers beyond just the physical, beyond just the broken sleep. There's so much more to it. And in fact, maybe I'll put a little graphic up here on the screen. This is what I've conceptualized. It's the iceberg. At the tip, you can see that there is sleep deprivation. This is why a mother's so exhausted. And below the surface, there are all of these potential physical and emotional causes, which, most people are on the lookout in terms of health professionals. But then we can go one step even deeper. Why are mothers ending up with these health conditions, with these biochemical imbalances, with these nutrient deficiencies? Because we are pushing ourselves beyond our capacity, we are unsupported, and we are trying to do more than one human can do. And so much of this is driven by this quest to be the perfect mother myth. All right, having said that, we will talk at the end a little bit more about how we can start to unpick and unravel and overcome this perfect mother myth. We call it detoxing the perfect mother myth. That's what Dr. Sophie Brock says. So sit tight if you're sort of like, what is going on here? We'll go through the 5 ways that it's draining your energy, and then we will come out the other side talking about what steps you can take next. So number 1 is you overextend yourself. It drives you to overextend yourself. Striving to be a perfect mother often means that we have to push ourselves more and be more than really we have to give. We might already be stretched thin in early motherhood, sleep deprived, busy, juggling work, juggling multiple children, and trying to strive on top of that to be this unattainable level of perfect mum, super mum, is really asking more of our body and our mind than it has to give. Is more demand than we have reserves left in the tank. Naturally, this leads to exhaustion. Number 2 is that it promotes feelings of guilt and shame. Inherent in the very premise of the perfect mother myth of idealized mothering is this black and white thinking that dictates good mother, bad mother. And because the rules of the perfect mother myth of good mothering are unrealistic, unattainable, no human can really ever meet them, we end up in this binary of I'm either the perfect mom and I've adhered to the rules, or I have failed. And because they're unattainable, most of us get that sense that we're not living up to it and that we're failing. Naturally, this leads to feelings of guilt and shame. And these are really depleting, lethargic emotions. They bring us down, they make us feel heavy, adding to our sense of low energy, fatigue, and depletion. The third way that being a perfect mum is draining your energy is that it makes it hard for you to ask for and accept help. Wrapped up in this idea of perfect mothering is the idea that we should be able to do it all on our own. It's one of the core ideas or beliefs about good mothers is that they do it on their own. They don't need to ask for help, don't need to accept for help. They just do it all, and they do it effortlessly and without needing a break and without complaining. So for many of us, asking for or accepting help is synonymous, whether this is conscious or subconscious, with failing, at least in relation to these ideas about being a good mother. But of course, we can't do it all on our own, and so not letting others in to help means we're carrying an unrealistic, heavy load that will only exhaust us and deplete us further. Number 4 is that it causes stress that can deplete you physically. Again, it comes back around to kind of pushing yourself further than you have to give, pushing yourself to work harder and give more. This is really stressful on us mentally and physically. It's the actual physical work of go, go, go when maybe you need a break, and the mental emotional stress of, trying to give more than you have to give. Anytime we have an activated stress response in the body, especially if it's ongoing, so therefore chronic, then it's taking a lot of reserves from our body in terms of particularly nutrients and energy. So when this is this ongoing chronic stress, we end up potentially with depleted nutrients, hormone imbalances, and a nervous system can become dysregulated too, because that's intricately connected to the stress response. And all of these things can either cause or worsen our fatigue. And the fifth and final way that it can drain your energy is that we start to devalue rest. This goes hand in hand with both the first thing around overextending ourselves and the second thing around it promoting feelings of guilt and shame. Resting is so difficult for so many of us because we don't see it as productive. We're too busy to stop and slow down. And anytime we try to or we do it, we're overcome with guilt that we should be doing something else. We should be crossing something else off our to-do list. We should be doing something more productive, classically productive tasks like housework or tending to somebody else's need. And so much of this stems from our belief about what it means to be a good mother, striving for perfection. The good mother is always busy and always taking care of everything. She's not lazy. She doesn't stop and need a break. Of course, a lack of rest is a one-way ticket to burnout. Okay, let's talk about detoxing from the perfect mother myth. As I said, that's a term I borrow from Dr. Sophie Brock and her work, where she talks about how we can start to unravel this. The first thing I recommend doing is to kind of journal out what you think it means to be a perfect mother. We all have our own picture of what a perfect mother looks like to us. There are some somewhat universal beliefs from the culture and from, in a social context. But it will also be influenced by our personal perspective, which is influenced by our upbringing, our childhood, our family of origin, our life experiences, our exposure to certain pictures and messages in the media, as well as our current family, like our partnership and that kind of dynamic. So typically a perfect mother is, self-sacrificing. She's selfless. She's always giving to those in her family. She always puts others first. She usually makes food from scratch, and the kids are always well behaved because, she's a good mother. She's also independent, especially financially, but she never is distracted from the family and the kids. So there's a bit of a contradiction. She takes care of her own needs, but also puts everyone else's first. So another contradiction. She's healthy, usually attractive, well-kept, put together, never angry, always regulated, doesn't get bored with motherhood, and loves playing, loves her children all the time. You can see the idealized version that this starts to come together as. So first thing is to kind of journal through what you think yours looks like. It might look really similar to that with a few key differences or a few extra details, but write it down, do the exercise so that you know what that looks like, and you can start to pick it out, playing out in your life in real time. The next thing is to get clear on your own values. What do you value? What's important to you as a woman, as a mother, as a parent, as the family unit? When you're clear on your values, it's easier to determine what is important to you versus what is an external belief from the culture that you have inherited as being part of the culture, but you might not necessarily want to continue holding onto. You might want to let go of that one. And this brings us to starting to listen for the shoulds. This is the next step. Start to listen when your little voice inside your head uses the word should or should not. A good mother should not let her child have so much screen time. A good mother should be more attentive, more engaged, etc., etc. That should, we can start to listen for it and look for whether it is us stepping out of alignment with our values, or whether we have started to step away or deviate from the rules of good mothering. And we can sit with that and try and understand which one it is. Because if it's our own values, that's useful information and it can help us to return to our values and act differently. If it's because of deviating from the rules of good motherhood, well, we can decide, is this important to me? Is this important to our family? Maybe yes, maybe no. And if not, you can start to let go of these sort of things. This is how we do the work around this. It's slow work and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's a constant journey. It's not, you don't reach a destination, it's kind of finished. It's ongoing work. As things pop up along your motherhood journey, you'll be able to return back to these steps and reflect each time. Along the way, we need to practice self-compassion and be very kind to ourselves, because this is inner work. And so sometimes it's raw and we feel vulnerable and we feel guilt and we feel shame. And just sit with those emotions if you can, and extend the same kind of compassion and kindness to yourself that I know you're extending to your own children all the time. Try to have some of that for yourself, because it's going to be uncharted territory that you're navigating, and it can be quite sensitive things that come up from time to time. So there you go, the 5 ways in which being the perfect mother or the good mother is draining your energy, and a few little practical ways that we can start to unravel that perfect mother myth in our lives and find more freedom to mother on our own terms and also protect our energy. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.